What's up everybody, welcome back to another episode of Zero Mile ATV, a true beginner's guide to adventure motorcycling. First things first, before we get into the video, quick round of business. We are in full production. I know I keep saying this, but it is actually happening, and so much so I am getting ready to do the New Mexico BDR, and I want to take all of our first round of motorcycle specific apparel, not our swag like these cool t-shirts, and ride them on the BDR so I can give them a real world test, film it all for the channel so you guys can follow along if you're interested in that. So with that, in order to have it in time, my manufacturer is having the sample team produce everything in the final production in just my sizes so we can get it quick, and then the actual production team is working on the full run of stuff. So with that being said, if you are interested in getting in on the first order of all of our stuff, I have lost count of how big the email list is, but the short of it is, if you want to get in early, go to zeromileadv.com, download our free BDR checklist. This will get you on the email list. So before I notify anybody on the channel that it is live and the rest of the world, I'm going to email all of you who are interested so you can get a chance to be a first edition Zero Mile member. That will come with a lifetime discount and a bunch of other cool stuff. I've got some other like kind of secret things I'm going to throw into the box and give to people who are interested and take a chance on us in our first run. So if you're interested, get in, because there's technically about 175 spots available because we are doing a small first run. And so if you want to get a chance to get on, you got to get on the email list, because the email list is quite larger than that. And so you'll want to get on there. And plus you get a cool BDR checklist if you're getting ready to do a BDR. So not only do you get something free, you get on the list early. So also quick update. We had our black denim. I'm not sure if you saw if you haven't seen the other video, I have another video of me actually wearing these pants and taking them on their first ride. We ran into a slight problem in our testing with these pants. So we ran the Durmstrad, I'm not sure I'm saying that German word properly, test. It is the CE rating that you see on all motorcycle apparel. This pant only got an A rating. I talked about how I was thinking it might only get an A rating because it is so small and it is just single layer, but it does have the Denim woven into it, but it is so soft and they feel so good. However, the standard blue that we have, which is was the over the boot pant that maybe you saw me wear in another video, this pant did get the AA. So what does that mean and why? Well, first, this is a 13.7 ounce denim woven with Denim, and this one is only 13, so this one's a little bit thinner. And why is that? Because the washing process to get this cool kind of gray faded black color was so intense, it actually stripped away a lot of the weight of the actual material, meaning we only got like a 3.9 second slide, as to these where we got like 4.25 seconds. So in order to get AA rating, you need a slide of 4 to 4.5 seconds for AA with no holes in the material. So there's some more specifications on this. I'm learning on this. If you know more details, leave a quote below. But basically, based on our tester, when they run it, it can't have any holes in it. This pant, this black one, received a AA at 3.9 seconds. So it was really, really close, just barely off at single layer. So in the full production, we are actually shifting the wash so that the black one will actually be that 13.7 ounce weight, which won't make much of a difference, because honestly, like wearing the two, I would think they're the exact same weight. But this one should get you over that 4-second slide mark, which will give us AA rating on a single layer pant. No Kevlar on these babies. So no Kevlar, and we're getting AA rating, which is super cool. Of course, the flannels, they all got AA because they have Kevlar lined in the impact areas, shoulder, back, elbows, etc. So that wasn't a problem. Those are coming out soon. Those are all being produced. The vests are being produced. Everything's coming. That's the update. So with that, let's get into today's video. Okay, so I gotten a few requests to kind of compare the Norden 901 Expedition to the KTM 890 Rally Adventure R, not the Rally version. So KTM has like 3 models. They have the 890, which is kind of the 890, it's like the street version of it. They have the 890 Adventure R, which is the off-roaded version. Then they have another step up, which is the 890R Rally, which has like their super professional cone valve suspension, we're not talking about the rally version, we're talking about the regular Adventure R, so the more off-road version. And if I was a beginner and I was looking at these two bikes, because they are very similar, they're basically made by the same company, which one would I go for? Which one would suit my needs a little bit better? So with that, let's get into it. One thing I think that is important for any new rider, especially if you're starting out with adventure riding, is seat height. Now, both bikes have roughly a 35-inch seat height. However, as I've talked about on many other videos with the Norden seat is much wider. So you have almost like a quasi dirt bike style seat on the 890, on the KTM 890, which each one has its pros and cons. So the pro on the wider seat on the Norden is that if you're going to be doing a lot of touring, so like if you're going to be doing a lot of seated dirt road rides, you're not going to be really doing anything super technical, that seat is going to be far more comfortable if you plan on sitting a lot more. Where the KTM is a lot narrower, and so it is going to be a lot easier to maneuver the bike. It just sits better between your legs, especially once you get your motocross boots and you actually use your boots to hug the bike. You can really just feel the width difference on the two bikes. Now the Norden, so one thing I noticed right away is just wider in that seat area. They have roughly the same height. So aside from the riding and the sitting, the other big difference, as I've talked about, somebody commented in my video the other day, I'm gonna post it below. He's like, I think you just bought like too big of a bike and that's your problem. Actually, no, dude. The problem is that the seat is too wide, and so it's not like the KTM is the same height, but it is easier, the couple of times I have ridden the 890, to put my feet down than it is on the Norden, because the Norden seat width kicks your legs out, right? So if it's narrower, you can get your legs closer, and so if you're wider, you have a wider stance, and you need longer legs to be able to reach the ground. So, sorry guy, you're wrong. So again, leave a comment below if you agree, if you don't agree. But the Norden seat is going to be far more comfortable on long rides because it is wider. It will just give you a better platform for sitting, but it's not as good standing, and it's harder to reach the ground if you are like an average height person like me. I'm like 5'9" on a good day, 69 inches. I'm not sure what that converts to centimeters, so sorry to all my European friends. So let's move on to the next piece. Okay, so the next thing is that the Norden Expedition dry weight is about 30 pounds heavier, 470 some pounds, versus the 890, which is like 440 pounds roughly dry, so no gas. So I think they hold roughly the same amount of fuel, so that shouldn't really make much of a difference when they're at the actual wet weight, but the Norden is also heavier. So when you are riding off-road, the weight doesn't really matter. For me, as I was new, the weight doesn't matter until you get into a spot where it's slow and maybe you have to hand maneuver the bike out of it, right? So if you haven't practiced your like turnarounds, that sort of stuff, and you actually have to kind of muscle the bike around, that's when the weight makes a difference, and an extra 25 pounds will make a difference. Now, with the weight, one thing to keep in mind is that the Expedition comes with this big, burly skid plate over the gas tanks. So the nice thing about the 890 and the Norden 901 is that the gas tanks are low, which helps with that center of weight. So when the bike is moving, all the weight is down low, and so it doesn't feel heavy when you're moving. It's just when you stop and then you have to push that weight around, that extra 30 pounds will make a difference. However, some of that, a good amount of that weight is coming in the skid plate. I don't know what the skid plate weighs, but it probably weighs 15 to 20 pounds. So that's a bulk of the extra weight right there. So if you added crash bars to your 890R to protect your gas tank, you might be about the same weight. So then it might be kind of negligible. However, the way that the weight is distributed and that the overall feeling of the weight of the bike, the Norden is going to feel a little bit slower, like if you're doing trails type stuff, because of the seat width, the extra weight, etc., where the 890 is going to feel a bit more maneuverable, etc. They've also changed the throttle mapping on the Norden from the 890. So the 890R is kind of like that typical like KTM ready to race. It's very responsive, where the throttle response on the Norden is a little bit more tamed back, a little bit more cruiser friendly. So like it kind of depends on which way you want to go. Similar with the seat, are we going more kind of touring oriented, or are we going more like racing, more like off-roading, maybe some like single track kind of like 2-track stuff where you want a lot more maneuverability and you really want to kind of push your limits there, then that will kind of determine which way you go. So on suspension, both bikes have the exact same suspension. If you get the Expedition and the Adventure, they both come with the WP Explorer suspension. It's the Rally version of the 890 that has like the super fancy like Rally or Explorer Pro suspension, which I think is so hard to keep track of all these names. If you know, leave a comment below. And if you've made it this far, make sure to subscribe. It's free. It helps the channel. You know, we're getting there. We're talking bikes, all things new riders. But the Pro has like the fancier suspension, which is the cone valve. They're both roughly 240 millimeters, I think, on the Adventure and the Norden 901 Expedition. Again, this is Expedition. Standard Norden 901 has the WP Apex. So if you look at the standard Norden, it doesn't have the same, it has like basically a lower level of suspension on the standard Norden, where the Expedition model is the same suspension, same travel, a little bit taller. So if you go with the standard Norden with the cheaper suspension, it will be a little bit lower, won't ride quite as nice off-road, doesn't really feel like you can push it. I will tell you, this WP Explorer suspension, like the first time I took it off-road on some double track out here in BLM land, like I just felt like I'd rally the bike and it was so much fun. And so you can really push that suspension. So suspension-wise, they're pretty much the same. And then the last thing we want to talk about is creature comforts. I think this is super important. If you are a new rider, you probably want to get out, you want to enjoy your bike, you want to go explore some cool places, at least I did. And the Expedition comes with heated grips and heated seat. It also comes with some kind of cheap makeshift bags. They're not bad. I mean, I think if you need some small bags, they're cool. You can carry stuff in them. I did. I ended up selling them and I got some Moscow Moto bags. I did a video on those if you want to check that out. Where the KTM, you can get heated grips. You probably can get a heated seat, but you have to buy them extra. So that's an accessory you have to buy. And then you have to turn it on, I think probably via the, KTM does this stupid thing where you have to like buy the rally pack. So you might even have to buy that in order to turn it on. I don't know, if you know, leave a comment below, or can you just plug and play them? But you have to buy them, it doesn't come with it. And so you just have a little bit more better creature comforts, and there's no bags on the KTM either. So if you're looking at bags, you gotta buy bags anyways. However, on the Expedition, I bought better bags anyways, because the bags that come with it are, it's a nice idea, just not very well executed. But as far as like creature comfort go, cruise control, all of that stuff, you can even do some like basic turn-by-turn navigation through the screen. I didn't. The other nice thing about the Norden is it has a phone mount up top. So if you want to like, I have the quad lock mount, I have that up there on the dash. So it's like, it comes with it. You can just like bolt it on and you can bolt your phone mount, like your quad lock mount right on there. So that's really nice, and it's right above your screen. So you don't have to buy a screen mount or a phone, you know, like a separate mounting bracket, I should say, like you would on the KTM. And then last but not least, which for me is probably the most important. So with anything, I always say, get the thing it's gonna make you want to pick it up and use it, right? I love to use Olympus, or now OM system cameras, because just looking at them, it makes me want to take photos, and it makes me want to take pictures, and it makes me want to use them. I love playing music, and with my guitar, I bought a vintage style Telecaster because it makes me want to pick it up and play it every time I see it, because it is just so cool. It just looks so cool, makes you want to play it and get better. I think the same thing goes with motorcycles. If you open your garage or wherever you have it and you see that bike and it looks awesome and it just makes you want to ride it, you're going to use it more and you're going to have more fun and you're going to get better riding it and you're going to be more invested, just because like you're going to be motivated just looking at it. So on that thought, for me, every time I look at the Norden, I'm like, this bike just looks amazing. The styling is amazing with that round headlight and that kind of vintage European Scandinavian look. I think it looks absolutely amazing. Where I do like the look of the KTM 1290s. I think that like grasshopper headlight, super well executed on that bike. And like when they're up on the center stand, those 1290s, they look mean and they look aggressive. Also, side note, the Expedition comes with a center stand, which is really nice. Like when you park your bike in the garage, if you need some extra room, getting the bike straight up and down as opposed to leaning just gives you a little bit more room. It kind of just moves things up, so it's not like leaning into your space so much. It kind of minimizes the footprint a little bit, so it makes it a little bit easier to get by, which I really like. And then also when you set it up on the center stand, you can work on it, etc. Also an advantage, no center stand on the 890. So another thing to think of. But back to looks. I think the grasshopper style headlight on the 890, they should have taken the idea of the 1290, that similar shape, and just made it smaller. But instead, I don't know, for me, it doesn't look as good. I think the Norden knocked it out on the parks when it comes to looks, and it makes me just want to ride it. So, to wrap all this up, if I was brand new and I was going to start riding adventure bikes, and I was looking at the Norden 901 Expedition and the KTM 890R, Adventure R, I probably would go the Norden. And it's no secret, why, right? Because I own the Norden and I could have gotten an 890. But why is that? Because I think if you're going to be doing BDRs and that sort of stuff, there's a lot of seat time, and so that wider seat is going to be more comfortable. If you hit a storm or something, having the heated grips in the heated seat, if you can just stay warmer even though you're wet, it's going to make a big difference. So those creature comforts are are very nice. I also like that the Norden 901 comes with a skid plate, so I didn't have to buy extra protection, because if you've seen my Colorado BDR videos, I definitely used my protection on the Triumph Tiger 900 rally. So like, thank God I had the crash bars on that bike. It definitely saved it. So it's one less thing you have to buy there. So if you're going to be doing, for me, if I'm going to be doing more BDR style stuff, I would go Norden all day. It's just going to be more comfort, a lot more creature comforts. It's more comfortable on the long haul and the long days in the saddle. But if I was going to be looking to doing, like I wanted to do, I think it's the Lockhart Basin section of the Utah BDR, which is like a hard bypass, and it's not even really a bypass, it's like a whole 100-mile section. Like if that's your jam and you want to do the really hard stuff and you want something more maneuverable, more dirt bike ready, just more aggressive, I would go the KTM. So again, if you're new, it's like, where do you want to get to, right? Like, are you like, no, I want to do more BDRs, I want to be more comfortable, Norden. If you're like, no, I want to do BDRs, I will suffer on the highway parts and the road parts with the narrower seat, etc. So that when I can get to the hard sections, I can really push, have a more maneuverable bike, kind of a little bit pushing more towards that dirt bike kind of feel on it, like a mid-sized adventure bike, if that makes sense. That's my thoughts. That's what I would do. If you've made it this far, subscribe, tell a friend. Thanks for sticking around. And until next time, stay safe out there.